My wife, Lavra, declared our marriage dead on a quiet Wednesday evening. Her voice held no trace of sorrow, only the sharp confidence of someone who'd already won. We sat in the living room of the home we'd spent 10 years shaping, a place of warmth now turned cold. She slid a thick manila envelope across the oak coffee table, her eyes gleaming with certainty, as if she'd already claimed her prize. "This is it, Paul," she said, her tone as final as a judge's gavel. "My lawyers drafted the terms. You'd be wise to sign them." I didn't touch the envelope. I didn't need to. Lavra laid out her demands with a relish that cut deeper than her words. The house, purchased with a loan co-signed by my late father, 75% of our joint savings, and alimony for 8 years. This wasn't a negotiation, it was a demand for my total surrender. She leaned back in her chair, her lips curling into a smug smile. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Paul," she said, her voice dripping with condescension, "you're a public school science teacher. You can't afford the kind of legal muscle I've got. My attorney will bury you in costs before you even see a courtroom. Save yourself the trouble and agree to my terms." I stared at the woman I'd loved, the one I'd built a life with, and felt a cold weight settle in my chest. Lavra didn't just want to leave me, she wanted to crush me, to reduce me to nothing. She saw me as weak, a hurdle to be cleared and forgotten. Her greatest weapon, she believed, was my inability to fight back. I let the silence stretch, my face a mask of calm resignation, then spoke the words she expected to hear. "You're right." Her smile widened, victory assured. The unassuming teacher wouldn't dare resist. She stood, smoothed her dress, and said, "Good, you're being reasonable. The papers will be served next week." With that, she turned and walked out, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor, each step a nail in the coffin of our marriage. Lavra knew I lived modestly, scraping by on a teacher's salary with no fortune to fund a legal battle. She also knew about my older brother, Nathan, but she was betting on the fact that we hadn't spoken in 7 years. Nathan wasn't a teacher, he was a force of nature, the state's most formidable divorce attorney, a name whispered with dread in legal circles. His reputation was built on dismantling opponents with surgical precision, leaving their cases in ruins. But our bond had shattered after our parents passed, over their old countryside cottage. I wanted to keep it as a sanctuary for family memories. Nathan, ever the realist, saw it as a financial anchor to be cut loose. Our argument had been fierce, a clash of stubborn pride that left us estranged. Lavra had seen the aftermath, the bitter silence between us, and calculated that my strongest ally was gone for good. She was gravely mistaken. For 3 days I was lost in a fog of despair, haunted by the thought of losing my home, my savings, everything I'd worked for. The weight of Laura's demands pressed down, suffocating me. On the 4th day, I hit rock bottom and found a spark of resolve. I dug through an old drawer, found Nathan's private number scrawled on a faded card, and dialed with trembling hands. I expected voicemail or a curt assistant, but after one ring, his familiar baritone answered. "Nathan, it's Paul," I said, my voice shaky, unfamiliar even to myself. A long pause followed, heavy with the years we'd lost. "Paulie," he said, using the nickname from our childhood. "What's happened?" The words spilled out Laura's demands, her lawyer, her taunt that I couldn't afford to fight. Another silence, then Nathan's voice hardened, laced with a protective edge I hadn't heard in years. "She said what?" he asked, his tone low and dangerous. I repeated her words, each one stinging anew. "When's the court date?" he asked. "Next Monday, Central Courthouse," I replied. "I'll clear my calendar," he said. "Don't talk to her. Don't talk to her lawyer. Don't sign a thing? Just be there." We hung up, my heart racing with a mix of fear and fragile hope. Lavra thought she'd strip me of options. She had no idea she'd just handed me a weapon of devastating power, a brother ready to fight for me. The morning of the preliminary hearing was bleak, a steady drizzle mirroring my mood. I walked into the courthouse alone, wearing my only suit, threadbare at the cuffs, feeling like a man marching to his own defeat. The courtroom was a sterile box, smelling of old documents and nervous sweat. Lavra sat at the plaintiff's table, impeccable in a tailored gray suit, her hair swept into a flawless updo. Beside her was her lawyer, a slick man in his late 50s with a permanent sneer. They shared a quiet laugh as I entered, their confidence palpable. Laura's eyes flicked to me, her smile tinged with pity, expecting a broken man. I met her gaze, my face blank, and took my seat at the defendant's table, my worn briefcase at my side. Her lawyer sauntered over, his voice oily with arrogance. "Mr. Reynolds, let's keep this civil. Sign my client's terms, and we'll wrap this up quickly." "I'm waiting for my counsel," I said, my voice steady but quiet. He chuckled, dismissive. "Counsel? Good luck with that." He returned to Laura's side, smirking. The bailiff called the court to order. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a no-nonsense demeanor, took her seat. "Reynolds versus Reynolds," she announced, scanning the docket. "Are both parties represented?" Laura's lawyer stood, all swagger. "Yes, Your Honor, Charles Warren, representing Mrs. LaVar Reynolds." The judge turned to me. Before I could speak, the heavy oak doors at the back of the courtroom swung open with a resonant thud. Every head turned. Nathan strode in, his bespoke Navy suit exuding authority, his leather briefcase gleaming under the fluorescent lights. A ripple of whispers spread through the room. Lawyers and clerks recognized him instantly. He moved with the confidence of a predator, his eyes locked on mine. He reached my table, placed a firm hand on my shoulder, and sat, his briefcase landing with a deliberate, echoing snap. I glanced at Lavra. Her smug expression vanished, replaced by a look of sheer disbelief, her mouth slightly agape. Her lawyer's sneer dissolved into a mask of pale dread. They knew exactly who Nathan was. Emily froze, the name unfamiliar to me but clearly a trigger for her. Nathan waited, patient as a hunter. She tried to deflect, but he produced a stack of bank statements from an account I didn't know existed, linked to our joint savings. The records showed charges for luxury resorts, high-end jewelry, and candlelit dinners for 2 expenses LaVar had hidden for over a year. Mrs. Reynolds claimed these were for work conferences. Nathan said, his voice calm but cutting. Her employer confirms no such events occurred. "You weren't with her. So who is Ethan Walsh?" Under oath, Emily cracked. Ethan Walsh was Laura's lover, a wealthy venture capitalist she'd met at a charity event. The pieces fell into place: her secrecy, her bold demands, her unshakable confidence. She wasn't just leaving me. She was plundering our marriage to fund a new life with him. Ethan's deposition was even more damning. Smug and self-assured at first, he wilted under Nathan's relentless questioning. He admitted to the 80-month affair, confessed that he and LaVar had orchestrated the divorce to maximize her gains, and revealed that he'd pushed her to demand the house and alimony, certain I'd be too weak to fight. They'd underestimated me and my family. Nathan's evidenced Laura's perjury in claiming fidelity, her siphoning of $80,000 in marital funds obliterated her case. She was exposed as a liar and a fraud. Her lawyer, desperate, called Nathan to propose a settlement, offering to drop all demands. Nathan's response was ice cold. No, she chose this battle. Now she faces the consequences. 7 months later, I stood in that same courtroom, no longer the broken man I'd been. The final hearing was a formality. Nathan's mountain of evidence depositions, forensic audits, proof of Laura's affair and financial deceit left her defenseless. Her lawyer, haggard and defeated, advised her to accept our terms. They were unforgiving. LaVar lost all claim to the house. Her alimony was dismissed outright, and she was ordered to repay the $80,000 she'd misused. She left with a sliver of our savings, a crushing pile of legal bills, and her reputation in tatters. Her scheme laid bare for all to see. The fallout was swift. Ethan Walsh, drawn to power and success, abandoned Lavra the moment her defeat became public. Her friends, many forced to testify against her, turned their backs. Lavra lost her lover, her home, her wealth, and her dignity in one devastating blow-all. Because she misjudged the quiet man she'd married. But the true victory wasn't her downfall. It was what happened with Nathan. A month after the divorce, he called me. "Meet me at the cottage," he said. I drove to our parents' countryside home, the source of our 7-year rift. I found him on the porch, gazing at the rolling hills. We didn't talk about lava or the case. Instead, we reminisced about Dad's botched camping adventures, Mom's unbeatable blueberry muffins, the summers we spent racing through those fields. "I was wrong, Polly," Nathan said, his voice thick with regret. "I saw this place as a balance sheet, not a home." "I was wrong too," I admitted. "I was so caught in the past I couldn't see a new future for it." We decided to keep the cottage, spending weekends sanding floors, painting walls, breathing life back into it. It's no longer a monument to yesterday, but a foundation for tomorrow, a place for our family to gather. Working side by side with Nathan, tools in hand, has mended a wound I thought would never heal. Laura's final taunt was that I couldn't afford a lawyer. Her greed, her arrogance, her belief that I was alone, they forced me to make the call that brought Nathan back into my life. She thought she'd isolate me, strip me bare. Instead, she reunited me with my brother, secured my home, and restored my strength.